Hey, welcome to our explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the brain to figure out something we all experience: pleasure. We're going to look at two really different ways we experience joy. One that keeps us chasing more and more, and another that, well, it might just lead to a real, lasting sense of peace.
You know that feeling, right? You work so hard for something, a new gadget, a promotion, whatever it is. You finally get it, and for a split second, it's amazing. But then the feeling fades, and suddenly you're already thinking about the next thing. It's like we're all stuck on this giant pleasure treadmill. So what is going on there? Well, it all comes down to how our brains are wired for reward.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at this pleasure paradox. Then, we'll get into our brain's default reward system, the thing that keeps us wanting. From there, we'll switch gears and explore a totally different kind of joy, the joy of stillness. And then we get to the cool part, how meditation can literally hack your brain, pointing us toward a more lasting kind of contentment.
All right, let's dive right into section 1. To understand this paradox, we've got to start with brain's built-in system for motivation. And you'll see it has a pretty interesting quirk. You see, this whole system is basically a feature left over from our evolutionary past. Its one and only job was to get us to go out and find things that would keep us alive: food, water, community. It's the engine that creates that drive, that desire to go get stuff. And it's absolutely vital. But the way it works is probably not what you think. And here is the absolute key to the whole thing. Neuroscientists have figured out that wanting something and liking something are two completely separate systems in the brain. Wanting is the chase, it's the craving, the anticipation, and it's all powered by dopamine. But liking, that's the actual pleasure you feel when you get the thing. And that's handled by totally different chemicals. So get this, dopamine makes you seek, but it does not make you satisfied. And that right there is the trap. Our world is constantly poking our wanting system while the liking system gets left in the dust.
So this dopamine-fueled wanting is basically our brain's autopilot mode. It's the mental background noise that's always running, even when we think we're not thinking about anything. Scientists call this the default mode network, or DMN. You can think of it as your brain's screensaver. It just clicks on whenever you're daydreaming or worrying or just ruminating. And a big part of this network is all about self-referential thought, that endless me internal monologue. When this network is always buzzing, it can really lock us into some pretty negative loops. And those loops often show up as what some researchers call the 4Cs. When that DMN is overactive, it drives us to constantly compare ourselves to others. It pushes us into compulsive habits. It fuels this endless sense of competition with everyone around us. And it can even lead to this unhealthy compromise, where we just try to avoid conflict at all costs. This is our brain on autopilot, stuck in a cycle of wanting. Okay, so that's the problem. But what if there's another way? What if there's a path to pleasure that doesn't involve this endless chase for something outside of ourselves? Well, this is where the joy of stillness comes into play. In meditation practices, they talk about this state called jhana, which basically means meditative absorption. And it's described as this really profound state of pleasure. But, and this is a big but, it's fundamentally different from the dopamine hit you get from a reward. This is what they call a wholesome pleasure. It's generated from the inside out, and it leads to calm and stability, not more craving. And it's not just some random feeling. It actually unfolds in clear stages. As you can see here, the journey starts with this really intense, almost euphoric physical pleasure. But as the mind gets quieter, that intense joy starts to become more internal, more tranquil. The excitement fades away and is replaced by this deep contentment, which eventually leads to a state of pure equanimity, a kind of perfect balance that's beyond pleasure and pain. It's a journey from a buzz to a profound sense of peace. Now, this might sound a bit abstract, I know, but it's not just a philosophical idea. This is actually happening at a neurobiological level. Meditation is, in a very real sense, a way to hack our brain's chemistry, to shift us off that dopamine superhighway and onto a completely different reward path. So let me introduce you to the star of this second path, anandamide. They call it the bliss molecule, and for good reason. Its name literally comes from the Sanskrit word for bliss. It's an endocannabinoid, which just means our own brains produce it naturally. And it's the key player in that feeling of well-being, calm, and, bliss. This is the molecule of liking and contentment. Okay, so let's put this in black and white. You've got the dopamine system, that's all about wanting. It's tied to that noisy default mode network, and it relies on the outside world. Then you have the anonymity system. This promotes liking, that internal feeling of bliss. It actually quiets the DMN and turns down the volume on craving. It is, basically, a self-sufficient pleasure. You don't need to get anything to feel it.
And here's exactly how that rewiring happens. First, meditation directly quiets down that main hub of the DMN, which turns down all that self-centered chatter. Research also shows that deep meditation can literally increase your levels of anandamide. You're tapping right into the source of bliss. This whole process actually restructures how you experience rewards, making you more sensitive to simple, natural, everyday pleasures. And by silencing the DMN, you're weakening the grip of those 4 C's: comparison, compulsion, and competition.
And look, this isn't just for monks on a mountaintop. This has incredibly powerful, real-world applications. Check out the MORE study. This program used mindfulness to help people dealing with chronic pain and opioid addiction, and the results were just incredible. The program drastically reduced opioid cravings, but here's the kicker. It worked because it increased their ability to appreciate and feel pleasure from natural rewards, like a walk in the park or connecting with a loved one. By training their brains to savor these wholesome pleasures, they were literally rewriting their own reward systems. It's an amazing demonstration of how this internal path can help us overcome even the most intense external craving. So what does this all mean? It means we have a choice. We've got these 2 very different pleasure systems built right into our brains, and just knowing they exist gives us the power to navigate our lives with a little more wisdom. So when you boil it all down, it comes to this. There's the dopamine path. That's our default setting. It's all about chasing external rewards. It fuels that nonstop internal chatter, and it locks us in that frustrating cycle of always wanting more. Then there's the anandamide path. This one is cultivated from within. It quiets the mind, reduces craving, and leads to a real, sustainable kind of content. And this quote from Dr. Merrick Garland, one of the top researchers in this field, just nails it. The point isn't that dopamine is bad and anandamide is good. The wanting system is crucial for setting goals and getting things done. The real wisdom is knowing the difference. It's knowing when it's time to strive and plan, and when it's time to just be, to simply experience the world without needing to change it. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. In a world that is screaming at us 24/7 to chase the next thing, to buy the next thing, to find the one thing that will finally make us happy, what if the deepest, most lasting pleasures aren't something you can find at all? What if they're right here, inside you, just waiting to be cultivated?